Hi everyone, I'm Luke Hector and you're watching The Broken Meeple. This is a YouTube channel about board games where I give reviews, top 10s and my honest opinions, regardless of the consequences.
Get on with it.
Today I'm taking a quick look at Imperial Miners. This is the new Portal release, which is still set in that whole Imperial Settlers universe because it even has it in very small text in the top corner of the box. And this is meant to be a very quick, very short, very simple spin-off from that series, which is still effectively an engine builder card game, like we haven't seen 1,000 of them before, but just meant to retain the same cutesy theme and just trying to be a generally quicker affair. So is this a potential replacement for any of that series, or is this going to stand on its own, or is it just going to be another Euro? We shall see. Imperial Miners has you building a literal mine using these cards, of which this is just a small selection of the level 2 side of cards. I'm just going to use these for illustrative purposes, but you've got level 1, 2, 3 and 4 to represent the first, second, third, fourth level of your mine. On your turn, it's literally a very simplistic setup. Firstly, you reveal an event card. So an event card will apply to everybody for the whole round. It could be an immediate effect, a round end effect, and so on. There are 10 random for the game. And then what players can do is that they get to play a card from their hand into their mine. There are ways to draw more, and these cards represent all sorts of different ways that you can either collect gold, or draw more cards, or score victory points, etc., or some other weird, wacky effects. Playing a card basically involves you placing it underneath into your mine and hoping to connect some of these links. There are links on the edge of each card which have little gold cart symbols on them. This one, not a very good example because it wouldn't connect any of them, but if I was to play, say, this one, I would get a completed gold cart, so I get to put one of these funky little like wooden carts little pieces on there, and they'll score victory points at the end of the game and maybe trigger other effects, so it's nice to have as many of these as you possibly can. Once you progress to the second level, you'll then have to connect them slightly ajar like so, and of course you'll connect up more gold cart symbols if you can. Once you've played a card, you then activate it as well as any connecting cards above it. So as it's lower down, it'll activate quite a lot above it. But let's say I put this museum down right here, I activate the museum card, and then I'll activate the other museum up here, as well as the mysterious noise card here. And then eventually it will lead to your main board where you've got one of 3 different basic effects like get more gold, spend to level up tracks, or get more cards. And so that's essentially what a turn sequence is in a game. You get an event card for the round, and then everybody gets to play into their mine and trigger all sorts of effects. It's effectively simultaneous, but there's no direct interaction with other players. As well as that, you have the ability to level up on 3 of 6 of these tracks. So these are double-sided, they're randomly selected as the game goes on. So for example, I might have a game with economy, technology, and diplomacy, these tracks. If you're able to level up on these, you have a marker, it levels you up and you gain respective bonuses. Once you get to the top, you then have to go to the bottom of a different track and level that up, and you can sort of keep going up and down if that's the way you're progressing in the game. These have different effects and sort of styles and themes depending on which one it is, like the diplomacy one features very differently from, say, the artistry side, but it's entirely up to you which 3 you use in a round. You carry on in this fashion over 10 rounds, acquiring cards for the different levels of the mine that you're going to, triggering the bonus effects, leveling up the tracks, etc. And then at the end of the 10 rounds, you simply count up the points, work out how much you're gaining from gold cart symbols and such, or any any game end effects, and then of course the one with the most is the winner.
Of course!
So in terms of similar games, of course it's going to be similar to Empires of the North and the other Imperial Settlers lines because, well, it's a spin-off of those games, so go figure. These cards have got different faction symbols, much like in Empires of the North, so the idea that you've got an Egyptian one, you've got an Atlantean one, and these effects will get better depending on if you have multiple different factions or all of the same, so you could focus entirely on the Scottish faction, for example. But one little aspect of this, with the whole triggering of the pyramid, is reminiscent of another game called Hall of the Mountain King. In that one, you had trolls that produced resources for you, and when you collected a new troll, it activated itself as well as all the stuff above it, and it was quite a tight management game. Here, it's the same deal, except you don't have to acquire a new separate card. It's just natural when you play a card. But it's the same sort of mechanic of activating this card, and then as a result, I'll activate, these cards, and then I'll activate these cards and then go into here to my main base. So obviously the production kind of compounds as the game goes on and you make a bigger mine. but that's kind of the situation really. I mean, other than that, it's similar to most other card-based engine builder games. Get an engine going, make it work, make it generate VPs for you. It's just got that theme and setting of the Imperial Settlers universe with a couple of mechanics, taken from some more meatier games. But this is definitely a lighter game than pretty much any of those that I've just mentioned. It's a pretty game out of the box. The same artwork that you've had for the Imperial Settlers universe is still reminiscent here. You've got some little in-jokes on some of the cards and everything. It's nice enough. Cardboard tokens. The gold carts, wooden carts are quite cool, though you do have to sticker the gold bits on. That's a little annoying, but, not too bad compared to some. If anything, really, the only component that I'm kind of a bit annoyed with is these colored gems. You have these 3 different colored gems, and they're basically for the victory points. But you have to look in the rule book to work out which ones are the 1s, which ones are the 5s, and which ones are the 10s. You can't actually tell just from glancing at it unless you see, like, the quantity. Oh, there's slightly more blue, therefore I reckon that's the 1s.
A nugget of purest green!
Why they couldn't just do VP tokens at that point? I mean, I get they want to do gemstones because it's all about mining, but I don't know, maybe just something somewhere that had like a tiny little reference card for certain iconography would have been nice, that literally just had pink equals 5, green equals 10, or blue equals 1 or something. Just something to kind of hint you onto that. But annoyingly, there isn't anything that tells you, so you have to remember to look in the book or just take a guess and agree before the game starts. That's kind of a little bit annoying. But other than that, the components are decent. I mean, you're only seeing a fraction of the cards that are in this game. There is quite a lot of them, even though there are duplicates, and everything just kind of fits the package for what is a fairly cheap value game. It is also a very simple game for that. I mean, this is the rule book, and there's literally nothing in it. A page is set up, tiny little bit for the event phase. The mine phase is 2 pages with a big pictorial example, and then that's just to explain some effects and the tracks. That's about it. It's a very tiny rule book. It's very simple to do. I mean, you will be up and running with this in no time. Yes, there is a video you can watch to, get a tutorial on it, but frankly, you don't need to watch it. It's not necessary. If you struggle to learn the game from this rulebook, then, clearly rulebooks are not your thing.
I don't get it.
It's also super short. This game does not take long at all. It says 30 to 60 minutes on the box from 1 to 5 players. 60 minutes? Even then, I'd be hard-pressed to think it should take you 60 minutes. Maybe with 5 players if you've got 1 or 2 slow people who are taking a while to trigger their actions, but it's short. It's 10 rounds. Only 10 rounds. 1 event, which really doesn't take long to resolve, and, get a card down and trigger some bonuses. And maybe level up a track or 2. That's it, and it's simultaneous, so when it's the mine phase, everybody can do their own thing. I don't directly affect your mine in any way, so I can just get on and do my bonuses, and once I'm done, I'm just waiting for everybody else. There are games that have done this in the past, like Planet Unknown and a few others that claim to have these simultaneous turns, but those ones take longer to do because there's a lot more to think about on your turn. Here, there's not a huge amount to think about on your turn, so turns should be relatively quick, but if this game takes longer than an hour for anybody to play, then you have a very slow person in your group. But if you play this solo, 2-3 player or something, you can get this done in 30 minutes, 40 tops. It really is lightning, super lightning fast.
40 seconds? But I want it now!
The triggering of the bonuses is a good mechanic. It's one where you start off and you don't feel like you've earned very much, but then as you go through the game and you place down like a lower level mine, it's very satisfying to be able to go, right, I'll play this down, which then makes that, which then makes this, which then makes that, which then makes that, and it just all gets, it compounds, and when you start collecting in the different resources and points, you're like, oh yeah, that was actually really good, and before you know it, you've got a decent amount of gold, and you can level up some tracks and get more bonuses. It's satisfying to do. It starts off being fairly meh, and if you're not doing well, if your engine's not particularly lucrative, then perhaps it can feel that you're not achieving very much, but it's still satisfying that every time you play a card, you'll get something back. You're not going to get nothing at all, because eventually you will hit your main board, and you'll always have these 3 options to pick from, and even these are hard options to pick. I mean, get more gold, always nice. Get more cards, again, always nice. Or spend the gold to level up the tracks, always nice. So you're always going to get something on your turn, even if you just play a level 1 cart. But obviously if you play a level 2, 3, and eventually the 4, boom, it does give you a lot of cool stuff. The first negative I would mention, it's a small negative, but yes, as I said, there is no interaction in this game whatsoever. You do not do anything with the other players. It's simultaneous turns. You do your mine, they do theirs. So you're not going to have anything that derives from others. Not even like, oh, I get bonuses if other players are doing this kind of thing. Nope, all of that is not in the game. This is complete solitaire. So much so that the solo mode in this is literally just the multiplayer game. Yeah, there's no difference. Solo mode, you just play by yourself, and that's it. You just beat your own score at the end. Which honestly sort of begs the question of why would you play this with anything more than solo, and that's a legit question.
This is why Superman works alone.
Oh, the fact that it is just a multiplayer game does make it a little bit bland. I would have liked there maybe to have been some kind of target you went up against, or some tweaks to the rules, but no, it literally is a paragraph of text pretty much saying that it's exactly the same as the normal mode. Now, if you like what you do in the multiplayer game, the solo mode is going to be perfect for you, and frankly, I've played this more solo than I have multiplayer just because it's so easy to bring out for solo. But yeah, it just would have been nice to have maybe had something extra to have there. The rulebook is clear, yes, though there are one or two little niggling omissions that I had to go on Board Game Geek for, particularly with where you start on this track. It is not clear from the rulebook where you start with your marker on here when you first start the game. Like, do you start on the first space, or do you count that as your first space? It's quite important to know that, because it's obviously a significant thing, but I had to go on Board Game Geek to find the answer. Portal have answered it officially, and, the rule is there, but, come on. I mean, your rulebook was literally like 5 or 6 pages. Surely it should have been easy to pick this kind of stuff up.
Dude, you're embarrassing me in front of the wizards.
And as you would expect from a game of this nature, there's a considerable amount of luck of the draw. It's a short game, it's meant to be light, so it's not meant to be super strategic, but especially with like the solo mode of beating your own score, to beat the score and get a decent reputation in this is pretty dang difficult actually. And a lot of it is down to what cards you draw, because yeah, it doesn't take much to figure out, oh yeah, I probably should take this card and put it here and put it here and that. The spatial awareness of your mind is fairly easy to figure out, but building up a suitable combo to generate a lot of points is the harder part. But then you are dictated by what you draw out of here. I mean, you may be focusing on a particular clan, and suddenly you never draw any more cards of that clan, and so that engine doesn't work. But then you also might draw duplicates of the same card that just generates $1 or something, like not particularly useful. And so you are having to work tactically to what cards you have, but then the ability to score high, particularly for the solo mode, is heavily impacted on that front. Somebody could run away with the game purely because they drew a decent amount of lucky cards, and well, that's just the way it is. But it's not the biggest hit on the game, because let's face it, it's a 30 to 45 minute game on average, so what do you kind of expect?
I'm lucky.
That's not a superpower.
Yeah, it is.
No, it isn't.
Yes, it is.
No, it isn't.
Yeah, it is.
So Imperial Miners is a fine game. I mean, it's not bad, but it's not particularly great either. I don't play this game and go, oh, this is amazing, I love this, oh, I can't wait to get this back to the table again. No, I mean, it does pretty much everything you've seen in every engine builder card game to date. There's no real innovation here, there's nothing new, it's another one. But it does have a lot going for it. Yes, you got to put up with a bit of luck of the draw and a couple of little rules and missions here and there, but it's super simple, super light, super quick, and it can play up to 5 players simultaneously in less than an hour, which is really good going. And you have some variety with these tracks. I mean, these can affect things as you go through in different games. You have a decent amount of cards, even though there are duplicates, and there's a few different paths to victory that you can achieve. But it's not one that I'm going to play over and over again. I've played one game, I'm good for a bit. I've played another game, I'm good for a bit. Even solo, it's super fast, but I don't really want to play it that much solo. It's just like, okay, fine, I'll play it once in a while. So it does the job, and that's kind of it really. But it does a good job of what it set out to do. If you want a really quick engine builder game that can be played with more players in a short space of time, and you want something quicker than, say, Empires of the North and Imperial Settlers, which I prefer as games, but they are more meaty, there's more to them, there's more rules. This is just super light, super simple, and you can get it out in a quick time, and it could almost be not a gateway level engine builder card game, there are more gateway ones than this, but certainly a light venture, and certainly this will lead maybe into the rest of the Imperial Settlers universe, or just into more heavier card games in general. It's light, it's simple, it does the job. I can't really rate it any higher than that because I'm not exactly going, ooh, yay for it, but it's fine. Does the job, does it neatly and tidy. So that's it for me on this episode of The Broken Meeple. If you like what you see, then please thumb it up on YouTube and thumb it up on Board Game Geek when it goes live on the site. Don't forget to check out all the other Essen reviews I've been doing. There's been plenty of them so far. And of course, let me know your thoughts in the comments about the Imperial Settlers universe in general and this game if you've given it a try. So take care, and remember, regardless if you can tell the difference with these different victory point gems or not, it's still only a game. So bye for now, and take care.